In this video, we're going to cover our modeling workflow, the final workflow in our water usage for production analysis. To start our workflow, we will bring in our target data, which has been updated through our data preparation and feature engineering workflows. Then as a final check, we will drop rows with null values. We will cast our columns to type double, since they are the easiest to work with when modeling. And as with any SparkML modeling node, we need to assemble our vectors for our features into a vector. Next, we will use the standard scaler. This will scale all of our data and will improve the model performance of our logistic regression model. We are using logistic regression in this case since our output column is binary. After we have created the model, we will then evaluate the model using these two histograms to visually identify the differences between the actual and predicted values. Next, we are filtering our data. We are filtering our data specifically where the excess usage or actual value is 1 and where the prediction is 0. This represents a false negative. A false negative is the most dangerous type of miscalculated value, since this is when we predict there to be no issues, but there is an issue, which can leave our production or our supply chain extremely vulnerable. Here in the output, the first thing that we have is our logistic regression model that contains the statistics such as the intercept and the coefficients of the model, along with some of the basic information about how the model was created or tuned. Next, we have our confusion matrix. This gives us all the possibilities between the two binary variables and the counts of each one. Next, we have our training or our modeling metrics. This tells us the accuracy of our model, in this case 70%, or the area under the ROC, which is often a better metric for evaluating a model, which is 78% in this case. Next, we are just simply printing out our predicted values. We then move on to the histograms that we created. Here we can see the frequency of the values 0 and 1. In this case, we have far fewer of 1 in the predicted values. If we look at the column chart or the bar chart for the actual values, it looks very different. While it may seem extremely different at first, in fact, since this graph has been scaled to only include from values 56 through 66, they are actually quite similar. The main difference in these errors is down to the false negatives that we identified earlier. Here's where we are filtering out all of the values except for our false negatives. We're then printing out our false negatives so that we can identify what differences there are between the dataset as a whole and these false negatives, and how we can improve our model in the future. The first thing that we can notice is that we have very common values of March, September, and May here. We can also see that none of the values that produced false negative results have any leakage. They are all 0 in the leakage column. Finally, another important thing that we identified in our feature engineering was the type of industry, a large, medium, or small industry. In this case, all of our false negatives were produced by companies represented by medium and small industries. None of them were large industries. We can take this information and then track back to find out what exactly produced these errors. And we can adjust our model so that in the future we have fewer false negatives, since those are the most dangerous type of negative values. Now that we are done covering all of our workflows, let's take a look at one way we can wrap up this project and bring all of the information together in one place. We can do this using reports. Reports are a way to bring together visualizations and node outputs into a single place. Here we have pulled the incoming dataset and the clean and prepared dataset from our feature engineering, along with from our data preparation, the prepared data with the target value now added. Next, from our exploratory data analysis, we have the correlation between the target and the various feature columns. We have the future importance, our correlation matrix, and finally we have some of the outputs of the graphs that we created in our exploratory data analysis. Except now here they can be viewed alongside the output of all of our other workflows. We can also add the output of our modeling workflow as the final conclusion to our report, with our training model metrics and the row values from our false negatives. Thank you for listening, and this concludes the excess water over demand analysis.